Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Yes, that was Sanders' balls in the jar at the DNC. That's what that was. Just in case you need to see it again. His name is on it. It's his. There's a vault that they have with a lot of lefties. And they just save them all, line by line by line. Vaginas are here too. But in this case, we're talking about one independent senator for Vermont, Mr. Bernie Sanders. And these are his. I just want to have a moment of silence. A moment of silence. Absorb this moment. Absorb it. Allow this to float to your mentality, your consciousness, your understanding of things. Bernie Sanders' testicles at the headquarters of the DNC. Now, why am I saying this? Why would I take time out of my life to make a picture like this? This kind of salacious pickled testicles in a jar sitting on the steps of the DNC. Why would I do that? That's such a horrible, bad thing to do. You know what's worse? Slander. Slandering people who are against or who are working for your interests. Slandering your own supporters. Slandering Black Lives Matter. Yes, slander. That's worse. That's worse. And you're doing it for the reasons, and the reason I'm putting him at the DNC itself is because ultimately the reason that Sanders is doing this is to work in collaboration with the DNC. I'm going to show you what I am talking about here. Sanders goes on a tirade, and that tirade literally hits his own supporters in the knees, hits Black Lives Matter in the knees, and the tirade itself it's farcical. It's somewhat ridiculous, and the point that he's trying to make in the tirade, and all of it becomes just a pretext in order to use Russia to attack Trump. Back during the primary, where is it? There we are. I remember this moment, and I thought this was one of the saddest moments in the primary process.
Parents, Eli Sanders and Dorothy Glassberg Sanders, they did not have easy lives, and they died young. They would be immensely proud of their son and his accomplishments. They loved him.
Democrats.
For the longest time, we thought, it's because they were parading his body around that he was crying. Come to find out, not so much. Not so much. Come to find out, this had more to do with the operation having just finished. Let's see. I'm going to show you Sanders. Alright, I'm having weirdness with my system, so while I fix my system, I'm going to show the point. Sanders, in this conversations on Meet the Press, shaming himself, his supporters, and Black Lives Matter. Let's take a listen.
Most Americans know is that at the end of my campaign, when it appeared that Clinton was going to win, and certainly after she won the nomination, what the Russians were doing is flocking to Bernie Sanders' Facebook sites, and they were saying to Bernie Sanders supporters, as they were, by the way, to Black Lives Matter supporters, people who are fighting for social justice, as they were saying to the Muslim community, if you voted for Sanders, you have to understand Hillary Clinton is crazy, she's a murderer, she is terrible, all kinds of horrible, horrible things about Hillary Clinton. And it turns out that one of our social media guys in San Diego actually went to the Clinton campaign in September and said something weird is going on. Bernie's not in the campaign. Hundreds of these people are now coming onto his Facebook site. So I think we already knew that. It was an effort to undermine American democracy.
I mean, he is really going in on this front. I want to start this back for a little bit. Let's go back to the beginning of this, because there's something else. The reason I use the term slander, I'm being very specific here, because he goes after certain interests that are in his interests in a really bizarre way. Let's take a look. Sanders holding on to the Russia hacked us argument, and he will work his way around to Donald Trump. Let's take a listen.
What most Americans know is that at the end of my campaign, when it appeared that Clinton was going to win, and certainly after she won the nomination, what the Russians were doing is flocking to Bernie Sanders' Facebook sites, and they were saying to Bernie Sanders supporters, as they were, by the way, to Black Lives Matter supporters, people who are fighting for social justice, as they were saying to the Muslim community, if you voted for Sanders, you have to understand Hillary Clinton is crazy, she's a murderer, she is terrible, all kinds of horrible, horrible things about Hillary Clinton. And it turns out that one of our social media guys in San Diego actually went to the Clinton campaign in September and said something weird is going on. Bernie's not in the campaign. Hundreds of these people are now coming onto his Facebook site. So I think we already knew that. It was an effort to undermine American democracy.
And understand, just so he's clear, he's talking about trolls. Like, he's talking about internet trolls. Is it possible, Senator Sanders, to any degree that's possible, is it possible that those people understood that they were cheated and those people were pissed off? And so what you started ended up with this thing of people, at this point, networks having already been created and those people flooding into those particular networks. Now, I understand if you want to make this case that says, well, wait a minute, this is purely because of Russia meddling and all this other stuff. But your argument here boils down to Russian trolls and Facebook trolls undermined American democracy. This is where we are. Like this, you don't believe me? Let's let him say it. I'll let him say it. I want him to say it again, just so we're very clear on this. Hillary Clinton had over $1 billion to run in the campaign. Hillary Clinton had media, meaning, you know, Washington Times, Salon, all these different magazines, Daily Beast, Washington Post. She had television hosts telling her to vote that way. She had public officials telling them to vote for Hillary Clinton. She had Hillary Clinton herself. She had one person after the next. She had Barack Obama. She had governors. All of these people saying, we're with her. Vote Hillary. Not to mention, she had her own Twitter warriors paying $1 million for a bunch of Twitter hacks. Her own Facebook ads. And you were supposed to believe that Russia and their Twitter trolls, their Facebook trolls, overwhelmed all of this. Overwhelmed all of this. This is what we're supposed to swallow. Yeah, I don't swallow that, because that's not really true. The studies that they did on this showed that they did not have an impact. It was little to no impact. All of the things that I mentioned before carried far more weight in this process than any of those things that you're considering, that you're on here talking about undermining democracy. It didn't undermine anything. Let me keep going. This annoyed me. I got to be honest. I don't like this red menace stuff, this red bait stuff that he's putting out, because I don't necessarily think the aims in this are honest. What is this for? Now, I'm going to rewind this one more time because I want to get at the very moment that he says this. In my case, this to some degree is attacking Black Lives Matter, and this does to some degree attacks his own supporters. It hits us off at the knees.
Americans know is that at the end of my campaign, when it appeared that Clinton was going to win, and certainly after she won the nomination, what the Russians were doing is flocking to Bernie Sanders' Facebook sites, and they were saying to Bernie Sanders supporters, as they were, by the way, to Black Lives Matter supporters, people who are fighting for social justice, as they were saying to the Muslim community, if you voted for Sanders, you have to understand Hillary Clinton is crazy, she's a murderer, she is terrible, all kinds of horrible, horrible things about Hillary Clinton. And it turns out that one of our social media guys in San Diego actually went to the Clinton campaign in.
All right, so you understand his argument, just so we can nail down his basic argument. And I'm sorry, I'm doing this a few times. I was having technical issues with the video. Muslims, Black Lives Matter, were being manipulated by Russians to dislike and distrust Hillary Clinton. That's his basic argument. Black Lives Matter and Muslims, they were calling her a murderer and a killer and all this other stuff. When Hillary Clinton was giggling because they murdered Gaddafi, sodomized him with a machete, and they turned Libya into this kind of dumpster fire, destroyed the country, obliterated the country, and you find out that this was her brainchild. This was something that she thought was a great idea. She pushed Obama on, and Obama at this point considers it to be one of his biggest failures. Is there an argument to be made that a person who did something like that, who destroyed another country in that way, who voted in the Iraq War, meaning giving Bush these powers in order to go into another country and to kill a million people in that country, is there an argument to be made here that yes, just because you're making a vote and just because you're wearing a suit and just because your last name is Clinton, it doesn't necessarily mean that your actions is completely detached from the reality that those actions take place in? Meaning, if she's pushing Obama to go into a country and murder people in that country and destabilize the government of that country and pay terrorists to help undermine the government in that country, if that is her, that's the thing that she wants to do, and that's the thing that she does. How's the argument wrong? How is the argument wrong? I mean, you're acting as if I'm the president of the United States and I'm making an order to say, hey, go in and drop a bomb on this particular village to kill this particular guy. Have a kill list. And the military goes out and does that particular thing, and you end up killing a bunch of people around that area. It is immensely foreseeable that if you're dropping bombs in other countries, that you're going to kill civilians. It is immensely foreseeable when you don't necessarily know who's at the bottom of those drones that you're going to kill civilians. If I call you a murderer, how are you saying that that's inflammatory and that's over the top? I am describing reality exactly the way reality is. If they wrote posts, and if the post that Bernie Sanders thinks about the most is, oh my God, this woman is a killer, this woman is a murderer, and he used Muslims, so I'm only assuming that the argument and the positioning of the argument is going after Muslims in this case, saying that this woman is a murderer. How are they wrong? That's what I'm getting at. How are they wrong? Just Libya by itself. I don't even have to bring in the Iraq vote. I don't have to bring in what she wanted to do in Syria. How is this incorrect? How's it incorrect? Second point on this, Black Lives Matter. Explain to me, Senator Sanders. Explain to me, Mr. Sanders. This. It's hard to see, but that's videotape footage of Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old boy shot by cops. If you notice, between the time the cop got there and the time the kid was murdered by those cops, all of, 2 seconds passed? Might not have even been 2 seconds. Pulls a car, stops short, jumps out, shot. It's a kid. Toy gun. I can give you one video after the next, of cops either killing, flagrantly violating people's rights, cops stealing people's property. Hell, the crime ring in Baltimore, where cops were essentially stealing money from people, meaning drug runners, knowing full well that because those guys are drug dealers that they can't necessarily go to the cops and say, oh my God, this cop stole my money that I got from drug dealing. They had their own drug ring going on. Baltimore. Now, they're going to be prosecuted because that's such a large case. But if you're talking about just the regular vagaries that take place day by day, that 12-year-old was shot within 2 seconds I can show you video after video after video of stuff like that taking place. The guy who got shot in the back. The cop who did this got off, by the way. No charges were brought against him. He was perfectly clear to go on with his job. He did get fired later on for doing something else. But killing the kid wasn't enough to get him fired. The guy who got choked to death, Michael Brown, getting choked to death. No, I may be getting these people wrong, but they're blurring at this point. But the person in New York getting choked to death by some maniac. The other one who gets shot in Ohio. The other one who gets... I mean, come on. Now, are you explaining, Bernie Sanders, that the reason why people were really pissed off, like Black Lives Matter, why do you think the group even exists in the first place? Why do you think it exists in the first place? It exists in the first place because of this idea of police violence and these guys getting off without getting any kind of justice at all. You're supposed to live in a society where you're supposed to have cops, and these cops are supposed to, if something takes place, have this kind of idea of justice. Well, it didn't seem that that was taking place. Ultimately, it seemed that these cops were essentially protecting their own ass, in which case there was nobody to police the policemen. They were getting off. The society itself was letting them off. That had nothing to do with Russia. That had nothing to do with Russia. That was the society itself. That had nothing to do with Russia. Black Lives Matter, their actions, their behavior has nothing to do with Russia. That's the point I'm trying to get across to you. Bringing them up in this context as if these people are zombies and they have no thoughts in their own heads. They were stoking this. No. What was stoking this was somebody getting shot in the face and the cop who did it getting off. That's what was stoking this. I don't know what Russia could have done to make this situation worse. Bringing them up as if they were actual player in these type of debates and these type of conversations, when it's clear that a kid getting shot is far more jarring and far more engaging than Russia trying to move the pieces of the deck chairs. It is insane and ridiculous. A, to know that there was little to no impact that these guys had in the elections. And B, to pull in lefty groups. That these groups were being manipulated. These groups didn't have brains of their own. These groups were just zombies for Vladimir Putin putting out his agenda. These groups, like Black Lives Matter, it wasn't people getting shot in the face. It wasn't that 12-year-old getting shot. It wasn't another guy getting strangled by some cop in the middle of the street. Nothing to do with that. It was Russia. It was Putin and Russia. Let's keep going with this garbage. I mean, I watched this and I thought to myself, oh, this is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. And let him get to his own people at this point, because eventually he's going to say my supporters, and I think he might have already said it. Putting his supporters in on this too, saying his supporters were being manipulated by Vladimir Putin. Let him do it.
September and said something weird is going on. Bernie's not in the campaign. Hundreds of these people are now coming onto his Facebook site. So I think we already knew that. It was an effort to undermine American democracy and to really say horrible things about Secretary Clinton.
Do you have an idea of how to prevent this going forward? I mean, this was a sophisticated, so they basically used the divide of the Democratic Party between you and Secretary Clinton at the time to polarize things even more.
Explain to me, Chuck. Explain to me, dullest man in America, Chuck Todd. Explain to me, Chuck. Does America do the same thing abroad? Now, I'm going to make this case that assuming everything that you're saying is here's right, assuming everything that that's coming out of your shiny face is correct. So what? If you're having this conversation and you don't have the context in this conversation to say that America does the same thing abroad and we've done worse, then you are lying to your audience. Sanders, you're backing them up in this lie. You're lying to your audience. You're giving no context to this conversation at all. Ultimately, this is one of those fucking Russians. We were just here as a dandelion in the air, in the breeze, doing right things, fighting for freedom and liberty and democracy for all around the world. And all of a sudden, Russia, out the blue, this red menace, comes to this country and put trolls, ravaging the countryside, trolls, attacking Hillary Clinton, saying that, you know, she did things like cheat the last campaign, or that she, you know, had a slush fund called the Clinton Foundation, that she was getting money in this slush fund from all these different governments that we consider be allies, but are pretty treacherous governments. Yeah, they were saying these horrible things about her. They called her murderers, like, you know, when they tried to attack Libya. Like, understand what you're saying. These people had grievances that exceeded Russia. Like, you're acting as if a bunch of Twitter and Facebook trolls, I can't even believe I'm saying it, this sounds ridiculous, overwhelmed this country and democracy, ignoring the fact completely, not even bringing it up, that we do the exact same thing around the globe. I find this to be an amazing conversation. And Bernie Sanders, who knows we do the exact same thing around the globe, has conversations and arguments about this thing of not toppling democracies, not toppling other governments. Having this conversation with Chuck Todd, completely ignoring what we do. You guys are making it as if this is one party doing something. And oh my God, something needs to be done about this one party doing something in the same way that we do the same thing around the globe. In order to make your argument and make that case, you're punching in the knees Black Lives Matter and apparently Muslims, saying that these groups have no brain cells of their own. They're being manipulated by Russia in this case. And then taking this argument even to your own supporters, to tar and drag your own supporters in the muck. Is it possible, Bernie Sanders? Is it possible, to any degree that's possible, that your supporters were pissed off because you were cheated? Is that possible? In the same way that, is it possible that Black Lives Matter was pissed off because of income inequality and because cops were murdering kids or murdering human beings in general? Is it possible that Muslims were pissed off because the person who they put up was the person who had interventionist policies? Is it possible that those groups, those people who may have been receptive to that stuff, even though it had no impact on the election itself, I mean, based on the studies? But even if I give you the benefit of the doubt, so what you're saying that they're putting out is true, the grievances, the pissed offness of all those groups that you're talking about preceded Russia having interplay in those things. It wasn't Russia that shot Tamir Rice, nor was it Russia that essentially attacked Libya. That was us. It was our candidates. Let me let Bernie Sanders finish. I don't want to continuously inject on this. I'm just saying the argument that Sanders is making here does not make sense. It does not carry water. But he's pushing it hard purely with this idea of attacking Trump and tying him to Russia. Still tying him to Russia, even though there's no text or there's no link between the two. He's carrying all of this water, hitting Muslims, hitting Black Lives Matter, and hitting his own supporters, saying even his own supporters didn't have brain cells to rub together. Completely bypassing this thing that you were cheated. Like, not even bringing it up. Like, it's amazing to me. Like this is media. This is media. The way they're cutting events in this way, like cutting these things and putting these things out there as little factoids of their own, without necessarily giving the wider context to make those factoids fit into a larger grand scheme or a larger narrative. We engage in the same behavior abroad. It's factoid. That's true. We engage in it. That's not brought up here. Bernie Sanders being cheated. Factoid. Not being brought up here. Russia hacking, meaning WikiLeaks. If you want to say Russia did it, I think it was a leak. I don't think it was a hack, but either way, information coming out saying Bernie Sanders was cheated. And beyond that, even before the election was taking place, Bernie Sanders is acting like he doesn't understand why his supporters were upset. What about this? Where is it? I want to show Nevada and Arizona. See, this is going to get too long. This video is going to get too long, and I want to bring in people. In Nevada, they already cheated Nevada. There's a floor vote. It was a comical floor vote. That floor vote, she called it for Clinton. I have no idea how you're going to call that for Clinton. Not to mention, they kept many of Bernie delegates out of the process. Literally kept them out of the process. And they stole Nevada. Arizona, same thing. Stole Arizona. Yet it was done in a different way. It was done by throwing people off the voter rolls. And it was done by shutting down the polling locations to where there was a comically ridiculous number of polling locations, despite having like 800,000 people who were trying to vote. They closed those polls. They called it before while those people were still in the lines. But you can go to state by state by state like that, throwing 200,000 people off the rolls in New York illegally by state and federal law. They cheated you. They cheated the people who were supporting you. And you're now turning around screaming that Russia is the biggest issue associated with this particular election process. Do you know how sad that is? Do you know how sad that is? Let's let him finish. This is painful to watch. I'll put it that way.
Right. Look, first of all, the main point to be understood is that what everybody understands, except Donald Trump, is that this was not just the 2016 campaign. They intend to do this in 2018. And I think one of the weirdest things in modern American history is you have every intelligence agency, you have the Mueller report, you have Trump.
That's not true, by the way. It's not every intelligence agency. The United States is like an alphabet soup of intelligence agencies. They have like 3. They have 3. Keep going. And even then, those things were somewhat speculation. In one point, understand though, we're talking about Russian trolls. So keep going. He's acting like he's being hysterical. This is a threat to democracy. These Facebook and Twitter ads who are trying to take down the top of democracy. They were using these issues that had predated anything that they were doing prior. And they were using these things to tear a wedge in America. Are you shitting me? Let's let him finish. I'm sorry. I'm bitching and I'm somewhat ranting on this because I hated watching this.
Trump's own administration saying the Republicans want to sabotage the 2018 campaign. Everybody knows this except the President of the United States.
Yeah.
And I think people are asking, what is going on with this president? What we have got to do, and I think Senator Langford touched on some of the issues, front end.
Yeah.
Front end. What we have got to say to the Russians, you are doing something to undermine American democracy. You are not going to get away with it. This is a major assault. If you do that, there will be severe, severe consequences.
Right.
We've got to protect states and communities to make sure that their voting is not compromised.
This thing called viewer.
Like what? Like what? What are the severe consequences? And if you're saying there are severe consequences from their standpoint, should there be severe consequences as we do these things around the globe? Should there be severe consequences? What do you mean by severe consequences? Is Bernie Sanders trying to start World War II? World War III? Does Bernie Sanders want to first launch on Russia for Twitter and Facebook hacks? This is sad and ridiculous. I'm sorry. This is obscene. I showed in my last video, I was giving the information showing how the United States meddled in one election after the next. How the United States on the Lauren Ingram show asked the guy from the CIA, and the guy giggled when she asks, "Are we doing these things today?" Yeah. Yeah, for good reasons. We're doing it for good reasons. Where's our standing? I don't understand the standing. And I don't understand how you can call it news if Chuck Todd and Bernie Sanders are not even having a substantive conversation on, yes, we do this also around the world. This show, this conversation, this Meet the Press, that the most ridiculous man on the planet, Chuck Todd, the most oblivious man on the planet, Chuck Todd, will never, ever actually bring up a larger context so people who are watching this show will have that larger context. Yes, Sanders. What do you mean by severe consequences? That's one of those conversations that Chuck Todd should have asked. What do you mean by severe consequences? Beyond that, if you're going to have that particular conversation, you need to also bring up the conversation that we ourselves do this around the globe. This is also us. What should be the consequences for us? Should there be sanctions on the United States? Should they consider when we topple a democracy, topple a government, whatever the government is, if we topple a government, should there be sanctions against the United States? Should that be seen as an act of war? When we go into Iraq and murder 1 million people, should there be consequences for the president or for the vice president, for the people involved in making a decision when Iraq didn't attack us? Should there be some larger consequence than, oh, Mulligan? Oh, Mulligan. When the United States, when Obama and Clinton make the determination that they want to destroy Libya, when they go on these rampages with their kill lists, bombing one country after the next, when they're bombing and illegally in Syria, even murdering civilian or Syrian troops. That's us. I don't understand the standing that these guys have to make these proclamations while we do these things around the globe and we trespass in one country after the next. It is an amazing hypocrisy for Bernie Sanders to talk in this way. And beyond that, to make this point of saying my supporters were being manipulated. My supporters were being manipulated. Your supporters were cheated. Newsflash. Your supporters were cheated. And they had more of a spine than calling out the fact that they were being cheated than you ever have. It's fucking amazing. Yeah, I mean, Russia was getting involved, making my supporters angry because, you know, reasons. Because of reasons. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, it's fucking amazing. Let's see. Before I found UJC, found W a couple of years ago now, so I've been very wary of Bernie since the election. She's been right the whole time. Look, Debbie and I diverge on the Sanders thing. But I don't like this. I don't care if it's just politics. I don't like it. Like, are you telling me that Sanders doesn't have the capability of having a conversation saying, putting this in a larger context? I mean, part of the reason that people really gravitated towards Sanders in this way is because they thought he was being earnest, he was being honest. And it seems that earnest and honesty only really applies when he doesn't think he has a chance to win. I can say whatever I want. I don't have a chance to win. I just don't want to hurt Hillary Clinton. So I'm going to run this campaign in the way that I'm going to run this campaign because I have no chance of winning this campaign. Then you find out there's a chance you can win. And you also find out that, hey, in 2020, I can run again. I want to run with the Democrats. Because I want to run with the Democrats, I need to do things that don't necessarily hurt the Democrats. Meaning, yes, I'm Bernie Sanders. I'm pretty bright. I understand that we, as the United States, do this around the globe. I understand that there's a larger context to this. I understand all of that. I understand that Democrats are obfuscating. I understand that Democrats don't want to talk about the actual issues that affect us in this country. They want to try to tar Trump with Russia, and so that's what they want to use. I understand all that. I'm Bernie Sanders. But when I get into a news camera, I don't say that stuff. I don't bring that up. I don't care about the larger context. If that means that we get closer to a war with Russia, then that means we get closer to a war with Russia because of politics. Because of politics. I'm saying they're lying to you. They're taking factoids, but they're lying to you. They're leaving out the larger context in this issue. And they're only going with this idea. And by the way, attacking lefties in the process. When Bernie Sanders is saying that, Bernie Sanders is hitting lefties in the knees. Black Lives Matter, who wants this kind of revolution or radical change in American politics and the things that they want on the left, they're not doing that because, you know, they're motivated by being shot in the face. They're not doing this because they want another social change with the standpoint of how workers, particularly workers of color, interact with this country itself. Nope, it's none of that. It's none of the real world, physical matter, reality things. It's Russia. I'm trying to get across how ridiculous this is. But it's ridiculous in a way that is attacking elements of the left. You're not doing it because you're rubbing your brain cells. I guess that's the thing that aggravates me about this. He's attacking his base in order to make this argument, in order to assist Democrats. He knows better. He knows better. He chooses not to do this. By the way, guys, if you're patrons, feel free to call. I think what I'm going to do is, in order to make sure that it's clear what's taking place, in videos that I do, when I say patrons, feel free to call, I'm opening the phone lines. You guys can call in at your will. I would say try to keep it relatively short. This is something my wife kind of pointed out, because usually there were multiple people who wanted to call in. But my phone number is on the patron page. I believe it's on that first page, actually. So feel free to call in, and then let's talk about it. This aggravated me. This aggravated me immensely. It pissed me off, actually. I agree, Jamal. I thought Bernie would do everything he could for universal Medicare, but not this too much. Lita Gray. Thank you, Lita Gray. I appreciate it. I did too, by the way. I guess the conversation or the question becomes, what's the line? Like, where do you, if you believe you had an opportunity to change things, to substantively change things, and your name is Bernie Sanders, and you believe that the best case to do that would be to run in the Democratic Party, from a political standpoint, what are you willing to bear in order to make that work? Now, they believe that, let's say he believes Trump is a menace. And I agree with him. Trump is a menace. And let's say he believes this to such a degree where it doesn't really matter what I full well believe. Everything is subordinate to having the capacity to attack Trump. And I need to attack Trump in a unified front. Meaning, I need to work with these people who I otherwise would be somewhat against. And so he throws his lot in with Democrats. And they have a united front. If the guy who's considered the honorable man in politics diverges from this particular front, it creates a problem for the other people who are in that political establishment who don't necessarily have the popularity of Bernie Sanders. Imagine if Colin Powell didn't go out and get that speech in the UN. Yeah, they might have went to war, but no, they would not have had the legitimacy that they would have had under normal circumstances. Colin Powell, I remember this is within my political knowledge, had like an 80% approval rating. Nobody else in the Bush administration did. And when he went out and gave that speech, people were like, oh my God, this honest man is giving this speech saying that they got weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. We got to go. We don't have a choice. Bernie Sanders plays a role in this. He has to. He has to. And I don't mean he has to do this. I mean, the argument that Democrats make would fall apart in many respects if Sanders, who's considered an honorable guy and an honest man, did not go along with it. Yes, they would still scream about it. But if you had divergence from this, meaning if you had a division in this, then it would look far weaker of an attack. I think what annoys me, and I think what annoys the supporters, is he's bright enough to understand politically what's taking place, but he feels still compelled to go along with it. So I really wish he did not go along this particular way. I find this to be immensely dangerous. You know, it's one thing if you say, look, we need to make sure this doesn't happen again, but, you know, Chuck, we need to take into account that we do this also, Chuck. And so we need to do two things, Chuck. We need to change our foreign policy. And if you don't want to go that far to say change our foreign policy, to at least say, yeah, Chuck, but, you know, just from a larger context, we do the same thing around the world. But yeah, we do need to make sure that our elections, our integrity is intact, et cetera, and blah, 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 blah. I guess it just bites. I think, yeah, that's what it is. It bites because they cheated Sanders. And Sanders is acting like his people who supported him were pissed off because of some kind of Russia stuff. No, they were pissed off because they cheated you. You delicately tap dance around that particular point in this particular interview. But no, they were pissed off because they cheated you. All of these groups that you mentioned had an underlying reason of why they were pissed off. And the underlying reason for all of them were already intact. Russia had nothing to do with it. People being shot in the face. Hillary Clinton destroying countries, even wanted to expand what we were doing in Syria. And your supporters being pissed off that you were cheated. I find this to be amazing. Jacqueline Thompson, anyone who hangs with the Democrats get contaminated. Our Bernie is gone. This is the new improved Democratic Party. Bernie, everyone run a third party fast. Ugh. Diesel D's. I find it to be more proof that Bernie is a fraud. How much more proof do you need to say we do the same in the right wing of Sanders? Wait. I'm sorry. I find this to be proof that Bernie is a fraud. How much more proof do you need to come to the same conclusion, Jamal? Seriously. Leslie Stein, I am devastated. 1329C, Bernie is not being honest about this. No, he is not being honest about this. He is not being honest about this at all. James Lindsay, police have any leads on Seth Rich case? I have no idea. I haven't heard anything else about it, to be honest. Fletcher Daniels, it's only about race when folks who are still battling, I guess, with their own identity as a hallmark. I can hear Black Lives Matter and know all lives matter at the same. Don't make it about Jamal, dude. Don't make it about Jamal, dude. I don't understand. Yeah, I don't know what that means, dude. I missed that one. I'm not voting Bernie again. Nope. He would have to come completely clean. What do you think he's thinking? Gemini Dragon. Honestly, I think he's thinking, I want to run in 2020. That's what I think he's thinking. I think he's thinking, I think Trump is a fucking maniac. I think he's thinking from a political context, from my own context. I operate with these other politicians. We have, and we exist in a certain united front, particularly if I'm running again with that party. That's what I think he's thinking. That's what I would be thinking. That's what I personally would be thinking. Elephant on Coke. Jamal, some dumbass thinks you're playing identity politics over class issues. Yeah, I don't know why anyone would think that. Look, my issue is always, the issue is class, not race. And whether the issue is class is not race, you can do both. Like, you can still protect race issues. I understand why Black Lives Matter is pissed off. If somebody gets shot in the face, that person tends to be black. Blacks tend to be shot or killed 4 times higher than whites. The amount of arrests tends to be higher with blacks. I mean, come on. I mean, it's like you're acting like you can't have those conversations honestly. Yes, you can have those conversations honestly and still come down to this conclusion that the issue is class, not race. It's just so happened that race is folded within the issue of class. You can be strong for LGBTQ rights. You can be strong for blacks, for gays, all these things, and still focus on this issue of class. If we're talking about Black Lives Matter, we are talking about identity at this point. But you understand that platform goes beyond this thing of identity. A platform also goes into issues of class. So yeah, I don't necessarily care if somebody believes I'm playing identity politics, which will bring up Black Lives Matter. That's more with them. That is more with them. That's nothing to do with me. Bernie is the best fraud available to us. Scott Castor, that is hilarious. Yeah, that one's hilarious. I like that one. Liquid Zero, so it seems that Bernie was a psyop to demoralize and divide the left. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Don't believe that. Bernie is spending too much time with the mean girls, Robert Pouquet. Joan Livino, Bernie said that. I stopped listening to him when he dumped us at the convention, Jacqueline Thompson. Yeah, I'm accepting the call-ins. Where is it? At least I thought I had that up. Hold on. Let me make sure I have that screen up. Shit, I didn't have it up. I'm sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Luca Clemente sent me a Twitter thing. He was like, dude, I want to call in. All right, guys. I'm sorry. Feel free to call in. Call back. I don't think this was a psyop. Yeah, I don't think this was a psyop. I mean, yeah, I don't think this was psyop. So, and the reason why I say that is, I have a hard time believing that somebody would have had this thing of class in this case. Hello, who's on the phone? And wait. Okay, there we go. 2 phones at once. All right, what's going on, man? What's your name and what's the topic?
Hey, I'm Troy O'Fallon, aka Feet Meet Fire on Twitter.
Okay.
FPR, Freelancer, whatever. I have several things I haven't tied together yet. I'm aloof like that. Anyway, all of your points are great. I love your shows. You really break it down. I'm an over 50-year-old guy. I mean, I sound like it. I'm an over 50-year-old guy, Midwesterner, Caucasian persuasion, whatever. Anyway, the thing is that there's a lot of confusion out there. What the conversations you have on YouTube and Twitter and stuff, I don't feel like it's hitting the majority of, let's say, voters in general, or the Democratic voting population. It took me going over several videos of both you and Debbie and I argued with myself, even after hearing the evidence and fact that you guys laid out, understand that this is not an easy thing for people to say,
no, it's not.
I can't vote for the Democratic Party.
It's not.
Anymore.
I don't think it is.
It's gut wrenching.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I came to my own arc on that. Like I don't yeah, I came to my own arc on that, man. I don't think it's necessarily easy. Or I don't think it's easy to do. You're breaking programming. Like you grow up in America and you're giving your Wheaties by your mom. You know, you're playing Xbox with your dad or whatever else, or Nintendo, whatever the age range, and you learn from them implicitly that this is politics, and that politics involves Democrats and Republicans. Now, during your own lifespan, you know, you get normalized to these things, and these are the things that I do. I go and ritualistically vote for either Democrat or Republican. Now, if I'm in a black household, that tends to be Democrat. If I'm in some other household, you may have a choice of Democrat or Republican. But ultimately, that's your ritualistic thing to do. That's how you interact with the government. That's how you make, you know, whatever your policy is.
I'm a third generation Democrat. I'm a third generation Democrat myself.
Yeah, so it becomes, you can understand how difficult it is to pull yourself out of that mind frame and to look at it, because look, people aren't crazy for saying Republicans are batshit crazy. They're off the fucking reservation. The problem with it is where you hit your head on, where you're like, well, wait a minute, nothing is changing. It's like nothing.
That's the record player that kept going on my mind. Is like, they're right. I've been voting this way for over 30 years,
and it gets worse. I mean, like,
and it gets worse.
What happens?
There's no way to avoid that.
Think about what happens.
There's no way of not seeing that.
If Clinton wins in 2016. And I always make this argument, what if she does everything that you hate? What if she just completely lied on the campaign trail? She does everything contrary to what you hate. And Donald Trump runs again in 2020. Hell, say Ted Cruz runs again in 2020. Say Mike Pence runs again in 2020. What do you do? Like,
We already saw what we did.
Exactly.
I can speak for myself. I went partially to sleep during most of Obama's era until maybe the last 2 years.
Yes, people go to sleep.
I mean, I can tell you, I went to sleep. I was like, hey, you know, we got it about as good as we're going to get it. There's nothing more to do. I'll just kind of coast in. And then about 2 years, before his time was up, I started kind of paying more attention. And I was like, oh, crap.
I think people, oh, man, I know this video is taking a shot at Sanders.
But people are scared. The point I really want to make, though, I'm sorry to interrupt, but people are scared to death of the Republicans. They're scared they're going to come in and rape their sisters and sell their mothers off to bondage in Russia and whatever. I mean, these people are frightened.
But they
so
are
bad.
They are. But understand the situation. Like, I call this somewhat of a finger trap. Like, you're in this situation where you allow them to get worse and worse and worse. Meaning Republicans get more batshit crazy and more batshit crazy.
Yeah, well, that's true.
The crazier they get, the better the argument for Democrats. And mind you, Democrats can move further to the right. The batshit crazy.
And they have been.
They have been.
I mean, you look at Nixon is to the left.
Yes.
If you look at Nixon's policies, he's to the left of friggin' Bill Clinton.
Look at Reagan. Even if you look at Reagan. Look at Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton are almost fundamentally the same. Like, the people who support them, for the most part, back them up. Now, yeah, you're going to have minor differences. But if you're talking about what they're probably going to do on taxes, if you're talking about what they're going to do on war, all those things. Yeah, Jeb Bush may pass a tax cut. Hillary Clinton was probably going to pass a tax cut. Well, she was going to pass a tax cut. Like, you're not safe on either front. And the fact is, it moves further and further to the right. And so it's like this guy who gets in office as a Democrat, he's, you know, for a few years ago, this guy would have been a Republican, but now this guy's a Democrat. He's telling you things that are somewhat moderate, but for all intents and purposes, he's running in the Democratic Party. The Republican in this part barely, you know, he drags his knuckles, and the guy barely speaks English. So what do you do? Now, the argument for everybody is going to be, you got to vote for this random guy who's now Republican, who's posing as a Democrat. It gets worse and worse. It's a game space.
But you got people out there like Norman Goldman, who used to be on the Ed Schultz show as the legal counselor, whatever it was, the legal, I forgot what he called himself.
Yeah.
Anyway, but you have the guy, Norman Goldman. I actually subscribe to him. I'm getting kind of mad at him now because he has to mention Jill Stein every freaking week. I'm like, what are you mentioning her for? He's good about laying out. He's a lawyer, so he's good about laying out what's going on with the Supreme Court, yada, yada, yada. But he has to hit Jill Stein some kind of way every single week. And then you got guys like Respect, guys like there's Blue Gal and what's his name, the Professional Left podcast.
Okay.
Love them. But they are dyed-in-the-wool. Democrats are absolutely better than Republicans, kind of thing. And they're gonna march through, and there's gonna be a blue wave, a blue tsunami in 2000, in November this year or whatever.
Well,
and
there might. I mean, but that doesn't. It does the opposite. So you have a blue wave. It's like, that's great. Now, what happens to the Unity Commission after that blue wave? Like, do you believe that the Unity Commission? They're already bitching and moaning about it. They even
I have two words about the Unity Commission. Naomi Kunst.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Anybody who wants to see what's going on there, just watch any of her videos about anything she did with it, and that pretty much opened. My jaw was on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I saw her videos explaining what was going on.
$1 billion to 5 consultants. $1 billion. That's amazing. All right, man. I want to thank you for calling.
We basically have to just pull the scab off and just deal with it. And the answer is basically don't vote for them, vote third party, stay home or whatever.
Yeah.
See, I live in a red county in a red state for the most part, except for a few pocket areas. I live in a very red county. It wasn't planned. I ended up here. My brother had cancer. I came out here to help save him. I couldn't save him, and I ended up just staying. Long story short, but I'm in a red county in a red state. So I feel like I don't have to vote for Democrats. Now, if you're in California, I don't know, you're going to have to figure that out. But, okay, that's another, I know you got to go. But California has a very Democratic government, and yet they can't get stuff done.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They
hell?
Put in Rendell. They're trying to get universal health care passed in California. Yes. Yeah,
you think if it could pass anywhere, it would pass there?
Yes. But they
can't get it done.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, they need to vote.
I guess Vermont's trying to. I guess Vermont's going to do it. I don't know.
Vermont. See, I don't know, man. This is one of those things where I would prefer nationally. It's harder to do it as a state.
Of course.
Because your states are constrained with it from a standpoint.
But we're not there. But we're not there yet nationally. We're not there yet.
That's true. But states have difficulties.
I don't know how to drag these 30 to 40% of knuckle draggers into 2018. They still want to be in 1955 or something. They don't want the tax rate. They don't want the tax rate of 1955.
No,
but they want 70%, the racism and 90%. Everything else.
Yeah, they've been normalized to a particular society, and they believe that society is the way that is. Like, that society can't change. The problem is their focal point, their point of view. If nothing else, you can say this, that Obamacare, popped the cherry to some degree. It broke the mold, and where people are like, holy shit, maybe we can have healthcare. Maybe we can have nice things. So, hey, man, thank you very much for calling in. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. I hope my voice isn't too bad because I hate my voice over the air. Your voice is perfectly fine. Your voice is fine. Now, dude, thank you. All right. Have a good one. So that was something else I wanted to say on this. What was it? Oh, I know what it was. Guys, thank you for your thank you for the super cash. So let's read some of these. Anthony Allen, hashtag Me Too Love Bernie Sanders. Fair enough. Troy Fallon. Here's a tip for your efforts, Jamal. Thank you, Troy. I appreciate it. Joan Levino. He paints us all as Russian trolls and escalates World War III. Joan Levino, by the way, is the one who sent me this video. So, Joan, special thank you. I appreciate it. Lita Grave for California. I agree, Jamal. I thought Bernie Sanders would do everything he could for universal medicine, but not this. This is too much. I feel you, man. I feel you. Yeah, I feel you. This becomes too much. I honestly believe that this is probably why he's doing this. I think he just thinks Trump is a bigger threat. And because he thinks Trump is a bigger threat, what do? You allow with the people who, for the most part, are... Look, I consider Democrats to be the problem. But, that being said, even within the context of that one problem, if you were in the politics game, if you're in politics and you thought one guy was a monster and you thought the other group was, pretty horrible, but would you allow with the group that you thought is pretty horrible to deal with the monster itself? Maybe, yes. If your name is Bernie Sanders, yes. Doesn't mean I have to like it. Does not mean I have to like it. He is painting you as Russian trolls. He is just saying there was potential influence. He isn't painting you as Russian trolls. He's just saying there was potential influence. No. I don't think he's painting us as Russian trolls. I think he's painting us as these stupid idiots was listening to stuff that the Russians were putting out. And I'm trying to make the point that the people who were supporting you were not stupid, brain-dead idiots who didn't necessarily know what they were pissed off at. They were pissed off that you were being cheated. It bugs the shit out of people when they know that their person was cheated, for the person who was cheated to come out and attack the Russians, not the people who cheated him. You can understand that that's problematic. That's problematic. It's fucking aggravating. Scott Sanders, no Jamal, Bernie knows better than that. Scott, I think that's people's issue. That he does know better than that. That he does. If he didn't know any better, fair enough. But I think people, they give him more credit than that. Meaning, there was a conversation with, I think it was Mr. Oblivious also, Chuck Todd. And Chuck Todd was asking about Iran. And Bernie Sanders, in that conversation, brought up how, the U.S. invaded Iraq, killed 1 million people in that country, etc., so we need to be calm about what we... Now, that's a political way of saying, look, there was carnage based on our last actions when we did things like this. He's elegant enough to bring stuff like that up in order to divert away from the conversation that Chuck Todd is trying to have. I'm saying he didn't even try. He went whole hog, and he intentionally withheld context. If you ask him what's pissing people off, I think that's it. That's it. You're undergutting your base. That's the first point. These guys were angry. They were pissed off because of Russia. Not because you were cheated, but because of Russia. And undermining your base, in the same time, you completely distract from the idea of the fact that you were cheated. Well, 70% of the country right now believes you were cheated in those primaries. You, for the most part, undermine that one also. And you continually undermine Black Lives Matter and Muslims. Let's see what we got. Who's the caller? Hello, who are you, and what's the topic?
What's up? This is Garden Gnome.
What's happening,
How you
Garden
doing,
Gnome?
man?
What's going on, man?
Not much. I just got home and caught the end of this, so I missed most of your specific points, but of course I know what you're referring to.
Yeah.
And
Bernie Sanders getting to meet the press shaming himself.
You got it. And it's disgusting. And if you want to use the the metaphor that you keep using about the abusive family, this is like the wife who cowers in the corner while the abusive husband beats the kid. And although she might have reasons for doing so, at the core, that in itself is an unethical act.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you agree with that?
I would agree with that. And I would even take it to another level. It's almost like the wife who's getting beat by the spouse who's terrified of the prior boyfriend or the ex, so like it's like she had a life before and she's terrified of that guy, so she's with this particular spouse who still beats her but beats her less than the other guy. So it's like if she's cowering in the corner on this particular front because she's scared of somebody else also. Like, it's almost like you don't get out this particular mix of fear in this. There's a certain level of cowardice associated with this. Bernie Sanders could have set Chuck Todd straight in that conversation. Like, he could have added more context. He could have did all that stuff. He intentionally withheld what he understood about this to go along with the Russian narrative. Yeah, I find it disgusting, man.
Yep, in complete agreement. He's no idiot. He understands what's going on here.
Yes.
I mean, he could be afraid of Trump to a degree, but
I think he is.
He's aware. He's aware enough of our political system that the powers of POTUS are limited, and the sacrifice he's making in opposition to Trump aren't worth the price.
Yeah, because I think it's a weird thing because for him, his star power in many respects was this idea that he was an honest guy, like he was a normal. Well, not normal, but you know what I mean. Like, it's him having the capacity to bring the crowd is afforded to him purely by this thing of genuineness. That when he's talking, when he's interacting, he's being a genuine person when he's doing so. And as somebody has made, I think Nick Prawn has even made the point, his affiliation with the Democratic Party is hurting him. Like, it hurts his credibility to some degree.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, I've mentioned this before. The reason why they put him on that tour with Perez was to hurt his credibility.
You think
they
so?
They wanted to damage his reputation with his own base. So they put him with the most corporate, neo-lib, autocratic Dem they could find, charismatic too. And they put him on tour with him. And they trotted him around the country in order to, you know, damage his reputation with his own base.
Fair enough. See, it does hurt. Yeah, it does hurt him. But at the okay, fair enough. See, I took it as more they wanted. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to make a quick point.
No,
at the core, they are still concerned with Bernie. They are afraid that maybe like something will happen and he'll break the leash, and he'll start using this massive popularity he has.
Yeah.
So they continue to attack him.
You know,
even though he's working for them.
Yeah, that's the wild part. I saw something, somebody was saying they were blaming him for the shooting, like that mass shooting. It's fucking amazing. Or I remember during the debates, Hillary Clinton tried to act like it was Bernie Sanders' fault because he was from the senator from Vermont. That gun violence was somehow he was related to gun violence. Like, it's insane stuff. I think they are terrified of him. But he is on a leash. And I think that leash is, if you want to run in 2020 in this party, you're going to behave a particular way. And I think, look, I don't know what's in his head. I don't know if he's terrified of Trump in this way. I don't know if it's because he wants to run in the party. I have no idea. I think, now see, for me, I think they put him on that tour because they wanted to rub themselves in Sanders. And even on that tour, every time Perez will, come on stage, Bernie Sanders will be up here shortly, but I just want to tell you something about the DNC. And, people would boo him and whatnot. There's a bird that shit on him at one point. It's like even God didn't like him. But Sanders, like in associating yourself with Sanders, like all these guys kept calling themselves progressives. Like, I don't know if you remember the DNC thing. She was like, so who on the stage considers herself progressive? And everybody, jump. Everybody. Or a video with Hillary Clinton saying, I'm a progressive. Like, all of these people were trying to rub themselves in what they consider to be this kind of populist wave. Is it also possible they were trying to hit him in the knees? Yeah, it's possible. It's totally possible.
I agree. I agree. It was dual purpose.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past.
They did want some of the Sanders progressive magic, but they also did want to damage Sanders' reputation with his own base. And then, it continues. We have Booker and his constant mea culpas.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah.
It's disgusting.
I don't like Cory Booker. He is so, somebody say he's a Democratic Ted Cruz. I don't.
I was the one who said that.
Oh, you were? Okay, fair enough. I was like, I know somebody said that he was a Democratic Ted Cruz. Yeah. Yeah,
he's so emotive, man. So just tries to appeal to emotions constantly. Like,
did you see
so cheesy?
What it was, the State of the Union address. Donald Trump was giving his speech, and there's a picture of Cory Booker looking like he's gonna rip out his just I'm angry. I'm just gonna punch the audience and go on a rampage. Yeah, I don't like Cory Booker. I don't like Cory Booker. He's come out recently saying that he's not going to take corporate PAC money. Now, he did this immediately after Kristen Gillibrand said she's not going to take corporate PAC money. All of them. We're not going to take corporate PAC money. We're not going to take corporate PAC money. Because they understand that if they're running in a race against Sanders, they have to toe a particular line. Meaning, at the very least, they understand that they need to act a particular way if they're going to compete in that race. I think they're trying to make up the differences where they think Hillary Clinton went wrong. And I think part of that is we need the base. Now, the question becomes, what does the base do? Is the base bright enough to realize that these guys are trying to, signal, what is it called, gesture signaling or something like that, to try to get this thing of, we want you to sign on to us. We want you to come back into the fold. We want you back on because we realize we have trouble winning without you. Now, the question is, does the left say, we think you're full of it, and no? Or does the left say, oh, he's not going to beat me anymore? He's not going to beat me anymore. He's going to stop hitting me in the eye and making me go to get a Sam sandwich. I'm curious to see what the left does. I fear, and I strongly suspect, though, that people are going to go back. They're going to believe it. They're going to buy into it. I could be wrong.
Trump, man. Trump Trump's a demon. Trump's like whatever. You know, I mean, Trump has become so toxic that there are vast portions of the citizenry who will support
anything else,
anyone, anything that the Dems put up.
Yeah,
so
they don't care.
I got to get going. But the final point I want to make is
go for it.
Call anybody who has the ability to. Should call in, because this is becoming an interesting part of the show. The last caller was great, so. Good job, man. Good idea with this call stuff.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. All right, dude. Be safe. Jeremy, what's going on, man? What you want to talk about? Hello? 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 What happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? Jeremy, you were trying to call in. Call back, dude. Call back. Let's see. Did I miss anybody? No, I didn't miss anybody. Oh, Rob Lenoy's. Here we go, Rob. Seems DNC forcing Bernie to hurt his credibility for 2020. Oh, you're saying the same thing that what's his name saying? Hello. What's the topic and what's your name?
Hey, this is Luca Clementi.
What's happening, Luca? What's going on, man?
Did I just kick Jeremy off? What happened?
No, I don't. What happened? I'm not sure. Jeremy looked like he was trying to get on. It looked like when I tried to get back to his call, it hung up. Hopefully he'll call
My
back.
phone's more powerful, huh?
Is that what it was?
All right, so anyway, I just wanted to make a couple observations about Sanders. I mean, I know that you have taken a lot of flack for being willing to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Unabashedly pro Sanders, yes.
So a lot of people, at the point where he endorsed Hillary, were done with him. And you, still said that he contributed a lot to the conversation. He changed the national discussion.
Battle Debbie on this point. Battle Debbie. You went into the lion's den on that point. Because I think Debbie is fucking awesome. That's why I want her on the show. I respect her opinion. And I know that she did a tear on Sanders, man. I think it was like 6 months where she was going after him. Like I imagine anybody who mentioned Sanders, she just hit him in the eye. So I wanted somebody who I respected greatly, who I was slightly terrified of, to make her points, to hold the line, and she held the line. I mean, there are things that I agree with her on, and so the conversation becomes this kind of, yeah, I agree with that, I agree with that, I agree with that, yeah, I agree with that too, but. And like it's all of disagreement, this little sliver of disagreement. But yes, I've taken a bit of heat that my audience is not fully on board with my perspective on this. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, it's okay. So you could make the case, if you want to give Sanders the benefit of the doubt, that he said that during the primary that he would support whoever the Democratic nominee was, and that was Hillary, so he supported Hillary. I mean, even if you ignore all the cheating. But Jamal, I don't know how you defend this Russia bullshit. What I mean, I'm not saying you're defending it. I don't know how anybody can defend the current course that Bernie Sanders is on right now. There's no defense for it.
Is anybody trying to defend it? Like most of the people who I've heard, even Dorr, like Dorr is this kind of unabashed Sanders supporter. Even Dorr comes out and is like, cut this Russian shit out. You're shooting yourself in the face. I don't know who defends this part. I'm imagining there is somebody out there saying, well, Bernie Sanders is just doing politics, or Bernie Sanders is just doing this. I am not one of them. I think this is dangerous. I think this is immensely dangerous and even slightly emasculating. I mean, ultimately, that's why I had the picture of his balls in a jar. Like, your argument here is Russia, who released, I mean, that's assuming Russia even, did that point. They're not even saying that. Their point is not Russia hacked the DNC. And just to make a quick point, Luca, all of this started with this idea of Russia attacked the DNC. The DNC did not want to give its servers to the FBI, despite the DNC lionizing the FBI, the CIA, and NSA as words of God. They didn't want to give their servers over to that. They gave it to some kind of private enterprise. Now, in this case, that's ignored. All of that's off the table. Mueller started this investigation based on a dossier that was bought by the Clinton campaign. Now, that's fucking amazing. Now, the FISA warrant process, in and of itself, is atrocious. You have, like 99.7% of FISA warrants approved. So, ultimately, it's a rubber stamp. Now, they took this FISA warrant, and they spied on Carter Page, somebody who was in the Trump campaign, Trump administration. Now, this also looks a bit weird. You have the president who's a member of one party spying on a person who's affiliated with another party. That looks immensely bizarre. Now, Mueller comes out saying, we found Russian trolls. What the fuck happened to the first part of this? All of this was ignored. Like, all of the pretext gets ignored overnight, and we're on the trolls. Now, they would say trolls had no major effect, little to no effect in this process, okay? We don't know for certain that these things were affiliated with Vladimir Putin, but they're going to say it is. And even if you say it is, meaning even if I give them everything that they're saying, they're acting as if the United States is not doing the same thing. Bernie Sanders knows full goddamn well that the United States is involved in the same behavior. He in no way cares to give that context. He just leaves it off, allow his audience to be fucking idiots, and in using his audience's stupidity, or ignorance in this case, he allows his own side to be attacked. Muslims aren't angry at Hillary Clinton because she was advocating for murdering people in their hometown, meaning going into other countries and everything else. They're not mad at her for that. They're mad at her for Putin. Black Lives Matter is not mad because cops were shooting blacks in the face and getting off. Nope, it was Putin. And Bernie Sanders supporters weren't mad because they were cheated in the primaries. Nope, it was Vladimir Putin. Like, I don't know how you defend that perspective. Like, that is massively indefensible. And the idea that Sanders is making this argument is ghastly. It hits himself. It hits his own credibility to some degree to make this argument. I agree with you, Luca.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll finish up. I think we have to admit that we're at a point where we need to just look at each other honestly and realize that the Democratic Party just simply needs to die. There isn't a way to reform it. It's corrosive. It's corrupt. I think it is beyond repair. And for something real to arise, for something that actually represents the will of the people, the Democratic Party has to die. We have to stop feeding it. We have to stop supporting. Sure, if some Democrat runs for dog catcher, that's fine. But I mean, at the national level, we need to stop supporting Democrats. The party has to die.
And
it is obstructing everything we want to accomplish.
And it's not just the party dying, Luca. It's also being very clear that you have a bunch of people who are saying no. Like, it's one thing if people do it in silent. It needs to be clear and understood that no, you're not getting this block of voters. That this is enough in a block of voters where you lose permanently. That's where it needs to be. And like, it needs to be overt and clear. Like the things that are taking place now where they're like, we're not taking corporate PAC money. Okay, that's not all corporate PAC money, but even given the perception of it, they're doing it because they're terrified of losing more people.
Too little, too late.
It's too exactly. Because I don't trust it. It's like all issues of trust for the most part have been obliterated. You cheated my guy in an election. You cheated my guy. And you lied about it continuously after you did it. Continuously. We're united. We're united. 15 million people had left the party while they were screaming that they were united. This stuff is fucking theater. It was theater. Yeah, I don't believe it, man. Too little, too late. That party needs to die. And by the way, even if you're on this camp that the party doesn't need to die, the party just needs to change. Leaving is the only way to do it. Leaving is the only way to do it.
Right.
That's the only thing that you're going to get change from.
All right, final comment. I like to support any up and coming new channels, and there is a new channel. The guy's actually in your chat right now, Politicor. I don't know if you've ever visited that channel.
I've never visited chat. I've heard the name. I remember the name.
It's fairly new. He's just starting out, so he's just building a subscriber base. But I would recommend people check him out and help him build his channel.
That's Politicor, guys. Politicor. So.
All right. Hey, thanks, Jamal.
No, man, I appreciate it. Thank you for calling. Thank you for your support, dude. Bye-bye. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I agree with Luca, man. I agree with Luca. Yeah, I find that one to be indefensible. So it's problematic to say the least. Let's see who else we got. There you go, Jeremy. You've been having a difficult time getting on today, man.
I thought you blocked me.
No, fuck no. You, for whatever reason, your call came up at the exact same time as I think it was Cardinal's call.
I got shots of voicemail.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I wanted to actually really quickly just piggyback on Garden and Lucas' phone calls.
Yeah.
And with because I was watching that Meet the Press video right before you went live when it aired.
What were you thinking when you were watching
Bernie,
that? Like I know
I mean,
I was thinking to
making
myself, what the fuck?
He was making it harder for people like me that think there's a potential, like just for somebody that says, yeah, don't give up on the Democratic Party yet. I mean, we still have people like Randy Bice and Paula Jean Swearigan. He's making it harder for folks like me.
Yes, agree.
By doing this, right?
Agree,
because
man.
he was the face of that movement.
I agree. I agree.
And now it's like, what the fuck?
I agree. I talked to it was one of the politicians, and it was a few people when I was at, I think it was a People's Conference, and talking to one of the people for Brand New Congress, I was asking, I was like, you know, I've spoken to politicians, and you know, this having a D beside your name is toxic. I mean, how are you going to get past that? Well, we're not Democrats. Well, yeah, but you're running in the Democratic Party. We're not Democrats. Like, overtly aware of the problems associated with being affiliated with the party itself. I talked. It was another one. What's the guy name? Ron, the one that's running as a Republican in Ohio. Yeah,
Sam Ronan.
Sam Ronan, where it was like the D beside my name is toxic. The D beside my name is toxic because it's stuff like this. It's stuff like this. My thought. I had this dream. You know, it's like in Gladiator. Dream that what, you know, what's the dream? I thought that there was a chance of a revolution inside the party itself. Like, so, and in my head, I had this path of Democrats get elected in 2020. In 2018, it prevents Trump at the very least, even if it's just political rancor back and forth, stopping Trump from making a mess of things.
Handcuff him. Yeah.
And then Sanders wins in 2020. And there's a reformation of what it means to be a Democrat. Like, he completely obliterates the apparatus and the way that the apparatus exists itself, and pushes for an agenda that forces Democrats to declare who they are, meaning we're pushing Medicare for all, college, and everything else. And either you're on this train or you're not. And if you're not, we're coming to take you off. That's in my head, that's the first potential for this kind of change, or real change where you're actually dealing with real issues that I've seen, at least from the standpoint of the left. Stuff like this hurts that particular image.
Yep.
Yeah, stuff like this.
And it hurts it because either he's misreading the electorate, either he doesn't understand that this is a growing movement, or back to Gardner's point, where Gardner made an interesting point that they're kind of toting Bernie out there so he loses credibility. But to follow that to its logical conclusion, that would mean that they're ready to purge the progressive voices on their side, and they're just going to go. Maybe they assume that there are enough people that stayed home and didn't vote just because Hillary was such a moron, and they could still get those voters back if they put up like a whoever, Elizabeth Warren, whoever. But so either or they even try to go after, you know, disenchanted Republican voters. But it just seems like with what Bernie's doing, if they're pushing him to do it, they're just not paying attention to progressives and people that have left the party, which is disappointing.
I think they were afraid, or at the very least concerned, that there was enough people who left the party, like who full on says, "Fuck it, I'm done. I'm walking. I don't want any part of this process." And I think Trump has been so terrifying. Now, to some degree, Hillary Clinton played the threat up, meaning she played that thing of Donald Trump is going to be a fucking disaster. He's going to, you know, raise to the size of Ragnarok and just start destroying the planet. And so anything that he does is put through the context of this guy's a maniac, this guy's insane, et cetera, et cetera. Even though what he's doing is regular Republican insane stuff. I guess my feeling on this is you have enough people who are terrified, sees his tone and think, oh my God, this man is a fucking maniac. And any random Democrat would do. And because they see that and they see the potential for that, they lose the initial, or they lose, or they don't necessarily care about pulling lefties at that point. Because this goes back to the argument of you, I know where else to go. It's, oh my God, I'm terrified of that maniac. Who do I need to put in place to get rid of that maniac? Hey, put this random Democrat in. Okay, I'll vote for that random Democrat. And now you have that all throughout the country, where you have this blue wave of people who are just voting for whoever is standing into that place just to be a bulwark against Trump. That's what I'm more afraid of than anything else, because I think at that point you lose any impetus for change. all of your changes go away. You can cheat Bernie Sanders again at that point because you've already told Democrats that the nowhere else to go argument still works. We can pull in a random, guy, and people will vote for that random guy because that guy is not named Donald Trump. That is terrifying. You go back to what you were getting before, and maybe even worse. So if Hillary Clinton runs again in 2020, do people vote for Hillary Clinton? I don't know. It's possible that the answer is yes because they're terrified of Trump. So
yeah,
I feel you, man. I feel you, man. Let me ask you this: a quick question. You honestly do you believe at this very moment, like, because Luca takes the position of the party can't be changed, that party needs to just die. Do you believe that the party can be changed? And if you believe that the party can be changed, do you believe it can be changed from people just being complicit and giving it their vote?
I'm starting to agree with Luca and some of you other guys, but I mean, that doesn't mean I'm still going to give up on like people like the Ring Bryce of the world, but
or even Paula Swearengin. I like Paula Swearengin.
Yeah, I think that once you get over a certain point, those people, like to your point, there was an article that came out today saying that Republican voters were disenfranchised with the GOP and are leaving. I wouldn't be surprised if the DNC is having meetings like, yeah, we can go after those disenchanted Republican voters.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Like essentially saying, we don't have to move to the left. We can move to the right.
Yeah, well, not even slightly to the right, as opposed to bending over to, give all this stuff away. So they're just not paying attention. So to a certain point, I think there's still good Democrats that are out there, and they're trying to do stuff maybe on more like a local level, or
if I was in West Virginia, I would
still agree with those
people. I like Paula Swearengin.
Yeah, of course.
My argument was always vote for the person who represents your interests. If that person is a Republican for whatever reason, if that person is a Democrat, if that person is a Green, if that person is representing my interests, then I'm good. Like, I don't need to play games. I don't need to say just because the person has a D, they're not going to get my vote. It just boils down to, what do I think of the person? What do I think of the individual? Like, and do I think that individual believes what that individual is saying? And do I think they toe a line? Randy Bryce seems genuine. Paula Swearengin seems genuine. So, yeah, man, I agree with you on this. I agree with you on this, Jeremy.
All right, brother.
All right, man.
Thanks.
Thank you for calling in, dude.
Yep.
Let's see. Who else we got? Who else? When Bernie didn't accept Jill Stein's offer to be on the top of the ticket after the DNC cheated us out of a Bernie Sanders nomination, I knew he was full of shit then, Mr. X. Ugh, that's brutal. Here we go. Bob Ramirez. How long before JT gives up the rubber nose and floppy shoes of the Stein voters, though? You're wrong. You're a bad man, Bob Ramirez. How long before JT gives up the rubber nose and floppy shoes of the Jill Stein voter, though? There's nothing, look. When I go to the polls, anybody for that matter goes to the polls, you're going and you're saying, this is the person that I want to represent my interests. Now, people would say, well, dude, that's not really the way you're supposed to vote. You're supposed to vote in this kind of, these two people have the best chance of voting, and so I'm just going to pick this guy or that other guy. Now, Bob Ramirez is making the point of, look, it's Trump and Clinton. It's binary choice. And because it's a binary choice between Trump and Clinton, if you don't like Clinton, and if you believe that you were cheated, and if you believe that you're not on board with what the party has become, then you're better off voting Trump in order to put a knife into Clinton. That's the thought. And Bob, if I'm wrong on this, make sure I'm, explain, write in the chat. But I think this is his argument. This is the main argument. And making a point that voting for Jill Stein is somewhat of a clown car. You're essentially voting for somebody. It's like it's not a man's vote. It's not a man's vote. A man's vote is going out there and do work. It always trips me out when he says it, like the dainty hands thing, because I have this image in my head of like a guy sitting out with his friend, like two dudes, just two men, like Supernatural, Sam and Dean. And Sam tells Dean, he goes out and murders a demon, just kills it, like there's blood all over him. And he's like, I did a man's work, Sam. I need you to come out here and do a man's work too with me. And Sam is like, yeah, I think there's a better way to kill that demon. Bob, I fully understand what you're saying. I guess my feeling is, in this voting, if you're a lefty, for all intents and purposes, you're more so a green. You may even be a socialist, whatever you are. But one thing you're not at that point is a Democrat. Now, it's weird for a Republican voter to turn around and vote for a Democrat, particularly if that person is not representing their interests. Why would they? It would be weird for a Democrat to chastise a person for voting for a Republican if that person is a Republican. If you're a Green voter, I don't understand why people shake their finger at a Green for voting for the Green candidate, particularly when they themselves are Greens. Now, it is their vote. They do with their vote what they choose to do with their vote. If Hillary Clinton wants that vote, Hillary Clinton needs to come and get that vote. If Donald Trump wants that vote, Donald Trump needs to come and get that vote. And frankly, they need to come get that vote by coming to where that person is. Now, the political process is not meant just to be this thing to fuck over the public, or to not give tax breaks and not give all these things. The political process, the goal of the political process is not to just be obsequious to the top 1%. It is actually supposed to be a means by which you would be able to govern your particular society. I don't have a need to play games in this way. Meaning I don't necessarily have a need to vote Trump, particularly when Trump I think is ghastly. I vote for the person who I want. Now, my case is always, if everybody did that, just voted for the person that they wanted, all those Sanders supporters who wanted Bernie Sanders, if those people actually voted for Jill Stein, what takes place on election day? Now, it's possible that Donald Trump wins. Donald Trump won anyway. Now, if it's possible that Donald Trump wins, and if Stein had got an actual decent percentage, not like 1%, but actually, let's say 10%, 15%, you have a new day in politics. You have a new day in politics. You've just drawn blood. Not only have you just drawn blood, you've gotten across this unison of no who said, I am done with the political process the way this political process is. You've changed the face of politics in America. You've given more substantiality to this other party, this idea of a third party, meaning it's like the Iron Man thing. It's like seeing God bleed. The process itself bleeds. You've demonstrated that, yes, I want somebody else. This public wants somebody else. And this public is in a unison of no. In the face of what's coming, in a unison of no. Say we'd rather have Trump. No is a better option. No gets you change in the long run. No is the thing that gets you change. Being complicit just allows the same hack that you've gotten one time after the next, after the next. But that being said, to Bob's point, Hillary Clinton still lost. Like, I didn't shame myself voting for Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton still lost. I mean, your argument is do a man's work and vote for Donald Trump. Donald Trump still won. Donald Trump still won. So, yeah. I'm perfectly okay with my vote. You have a new day in politics. Stein wouldn't win. Stein would get on the debate stage. Stein would just get 0 electoral college delegates, and Hillary would win. Stein would be a sweaty wad of money, though. I don't think Stein would win. I think Stein would get a certain percentage. I think she would get a much higher percentage of what she already got. And yeah, Donald Trump would still win. Donald Trump would still win. But I feel where you're coming from. I don't want the gamesmanship. I just want people to vote in their interests. Paula Jean is blacked out by the local media in West Virginia, a horrified Heartlander. It is sad to hear that if that's true. Jill generally defeats any hostile or condescending interviewer. Luca Clemente. I've seen some difficult interviews with your son. Like where people undermined her intentionally or hit her in the knees intentionally. I've seen some pretty nasty stuff. Rainbow Boom X. It's not about winning. It's about getting rid of corruption and pushing. Yeah, but unfortunately, the people who are running are the ones who are corrupt. It's not like corruption is this kind of thing floating in the swamp. It's actually human beings who are doing corruption. Those are actions. But let me tell you what doesn't get rid of corruption. Voting the same way that you've always voted. It just doesn't. Stein would destroy the other candidates in any debate. That's why they arrest her, just to keep her from speaking. Jeremy Chase, either way, she should be on the debate stage. And the Libertarian candidate should also be on the debate stage. It should not be that difficult to get people on the debate stage to have the conversation. I mean, that literally does boil down to these guys not wanting to have any attacks from their left or from their right. No, I agree with you, man. I agree with you. The debates should have taken place. Elephants on Coke. Jenny Lynn. Oh, I know this. Elections are a sham. Being corrupt is a personal choice. I don't agree with that, Timothy Young. I think being corrupt is a systemic choice. Ah, there we are. Adore Pariah. The system is corrupt and reinforces the need for it. Thank you, Adore Pariah. Thank you, thank you. Beat me to it. Stein doesn't need to win for us to win. Agreed. Democrats need to lose until timid Democrats see Green as a true selection. Yes, I agree. I agree. If he pardoned Assange, that would help. Angel Tibbs. M99. I laughed my ass off when Trump won, just knowing how it was killing the bitch to lose when she cheated and propped him up. Totally hilarious. I didn't laugh when Trump won. I laughed the day after. Now, the reason why I say that is when Trump won, I didn't think of Hillary Clinton losing. I just thought more so of Trump winning. And it was the very next day when I realized, yeah, that means Hillary Clinton lost. And you see all the people, the sad faces of the Hillary supporters at the office. They're like, oh, she lost the reality shows. They said she was going to win by 98% to 2. These bastards. Yeah. Yeah. Occupy current events. I love you guys, but we're fucked. If you have hope for a third party, you are in denial of how fucked we are. Occupy current events. I have no, I don't have any, I have no illusions. But Occupy current events. I think, would you agree with me that what would not get you any change, meaning it doesn't even have, there is no incentive even built into it for change, is voting the same way you've always voted. For those people who want to say, hey, the system works because of Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was cheated in that same system that you're saying works. He was cheated in that particular system. Jenny Lynn, I have to keep reiterating that our elections are fraud because they are, because they are all these conversations around voting and election results that appear not to take this into account. I get your point, Jenny. You're trying to say, look, you guys are bitching about this election or that election. These elections are frauds. Why are you complaining about elections when the elections aren't necessarily real in the process? In the first point. I don't know if all of our elections are fraud from the standpoint of there are people moving the levers behind the scenes, if that makes sense. I can believe it from the standpoint of insurance peddling or influence peddling. Like Hillary Clinton is a fan of this person knows Clinton, maybe Clinton worked through the back channels to have a conversation with that person. But very clear that this is a person who they want to win this process, and they do things in their own capacities to help in that process. So say, for example, I had a talk show. Oh, well, I do have a talk show. But say, for example, oh, I know a good one. Nick Brown, People's Party. So I like the People's Party. I think the People's Party is a great idea. So I tend to bring up this idea of the People's Party. Now, say, for example, the People's Party also had converts that were in other areas of government. Say you had these people in other areas of media. Say you had these people in all throughout the political process. Say you had them in unions. Say you had them all ensconced in all of these different areas. Now, they don't all avow themselves, meaning you don't even know that these people are in these groups. And say these people start acting in the way that they can act to assist the party in the aims that they want to assist the party in those aims. Do you get my point? It doesn't necessarily have to be all the stuff coordinated from the top. It's possible that it's that way. But it's also possible that people are working in their specific context to get this particular point across, meaning, in this case, get that woman elected. I don't know if everybody needs to be under one main coordination to do the things that you need to do for it. But again, I can't put it to the side. I told you I'm ambiguous on this stuff. There's no way for me to know, so I don't necessarily make the assumption that I know. But generally, I take your point. I understand your point. I totally take your point. Elephants on Coke. Wednesday after election, I call shot fraud day. Shot fraud day. Just so people know what that is. So schadenfreude is this thing of fucking Germans, man. It's a word that means I'm taking pleasure in the discomfort of somebody else. Like, I get perfect example. Perfect example. Rand Paul getting beat up by his neighbor. Now, Rand Paul being tackled and they beating the shit out of Rand Paul. Now, I know that Rand Paul, in many one circumstance after the next, liked this idea of taking money from America public and giving that money to people who don't need it. Meaning whether you want to talk about tax cuts and everything else. Essentially, Rand Paul would say, fuck Medicare, fuck Social Security, fuck people getting the things that they need or having access to. I am going to be obsequious to the top 1%, and I'm going to give them as much money as the American public will bear. Now, me knowing that, and me knowing that that guy who has that particular political ideology of fuck everybody else, I want mine, getting his ass kicked. Slightly funny. Slightly funny. It is bad that I think that's funny. It is bad that I think that's funny. Now, it takes Germany to make a word for that. Schadenfreude. I am taking pleasure in the misfortune of somebody else or something else. That's funny. Schadenfreude. That's funny. Don't be Patch Adams of electoral politics, JT. Take off the rubber nose. I'm being derided by Bob. That's hurtful, Bob. That's hurtful, Bob. Mikey Mike, the Russian bot. More direct. I'm taking pleasure in your discomfort. Oh, don't take pleasure in my discomfort. Just watched Jill Stein on MSNBC. It was amazing. Christian Halt. All right, I'll check it out. I'll check it out. Now, one thing I will say that may be also to some degree responsible for why Bernie Sanders is doing this. There was a article that came out that says, hey, why isn't Bernie Sanders saying anything about this Russia stuff? They're attacking Sanders. Saying that, well, Sanders was also one of these people that was being influenced by Russia. Why isn't Sanders saying anything about Vladimir Putin influencing him in these other campaigns? So, it's possible that that's why he hasn't said anything about it. I don't know, but I don't like it. Either way, I don't like it. And just so people see what I don't like. Yes. Those indeed are Bernie Sanders' testicles. And yes, the person who cut him off and set him on the gates of the DNC did this in a kind of perspective way, so you can kind of see Bernie Sanders and you can see it really well. That's what that video tells me. That right now, they're in a jar somewhere. In a vault. Potentially never to be seen or heard from again. One day, hopefully, Sanders will go and wrestle those back. But, just saying. They aren't two parties. No, they're not two parties. Show the Bernie clip again. You mean Bernie crying when they're cutting him off? Oh, you guys are sharks.
They're proud of their son and his accomplishments. They love him.
Democrats.
They love the New Deal of Franklin Roosevelt, and we'll be especially proud that Bernard is renewing that vision. It is really.
I like Jane Sanders. I actually really like Jane Sanders. Yeah, I like Jane Sanders. I think it's nice she's being supportive after they, you know, he's probably sore sitting on that chair for all that time at the DNC convention, seeing as they cut him off just before.
Enormous pride that I cast my vote for Bernie Sanders.
Thank you very much. Democrats abroad.
What most Americans know is that at the end of my campaign, when it appeared that Clinton was going to win, and certainly after she won the nomination, what the Russians were doing is flocking to Bernie Sanders' Facebook sites, and they were saying to Bernie Sanders supporters, as they were, by the way, to Black Lives Matter supporters, people who are fighting for social justice, as they were saying to the Muslim community, if you voted for Sanders, you have to understand Hillary Clinton is crazy, she's a murderer, she is terrible, all kinds of horrible, horrible things about Hillary Clinton. And it turns out that one of our social media guys in San Diego actually went to the Clinton campaign in September and said something weird is going on. Bernie's not in the campaign. Hundreds of these people are now coming onto his Facebook site. So I think we already knew that. It was an effort to undermine American democracy and to really say horrible things.
I'm not going to belabor this point. But do you know how sad that is? Honestly, do you know how sad that is? Russia tried to undermine American democracy, while the people who were actually trying to undermine American democracy was cheating you. They were cheating you. And look no farther than Nevada. And I'll leave it at this. By the way, take a look at this. This was the electoral map. Now, Donald Trump beat the stuffing out that woman. And the best thing that they can come back and say is Russian trolls. They were writing bad stuff on Facebook and Twitter about Hillary Clinton. And the $1 billion that she had, the media that she had, all the Democrats saying, screaming her praises, all of the plutocrats out there screaming her pages, all of the newspapers, the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Politico, all of these people singing her praises in juxtaposition against Donald Trump. But what took her down was the crafty Russians and their Facebook and Twitter ads. Here's somebody who voted for Hillary Clinton. Don't take my word for it. If you want to talk about cheating, if you want to talk about, them rigging the election, I can go through this. I've been through multiple videos where I made this argument of rigging the election. But just look in Nevada. Let Jink talk about it.
And it was a debacle. So now I'm going to show you how much of a debacle it was. So first of all, Las Vegas Sun explains that Sanders and Clinton supporters were divided over a vote to adopt a set of temporary convention rules as the permanent rules, with the former largely opposing them and the latter supporting them in a voice vote of the convention called by Lang. Lang is the chairperson there for the Democratic Party in Nevada. You're going to see her on tape in a second. Now, let me just make it simple for you. The Sanders people thought the vote was going to be at 10, or that particular issue was going to be decided at 10, but it gets decided at 9:30. They'd like to bring it back up and go, wait. Now, we planned for all of this time to have a debate, a real debate about what the rules should be. So this is right in the beginning, okay? Instead, they don't do that debate. Now, they bring up the fact that they should. Now, Lang is going to respond to that, and she's going to pretend to do a voice vote. Now, this is both sad, but I have to confess also hilarious. Wait till you see the voice vote and who she thinks won. Watch.
It has been moved and seconded that the temporary convention rules be passed by the body. All those in favor say
I'm sorry, but that was funny, man. Okay, so when I'm watching that tape for the first time, I'm like, oh, look, the eyes are pretty loud. I mean, I thought there was maybe a mix of booze in there and stuff, and there's a guy on stage right behind the chairperson going, get louder, right? And then I hear the nose, and the nose is like, no, right? And she's like, yeah, so the eyes have it. Pound the gavel, we move forward. No, the ICE did not have it. Okay. If they had counted those 58 Sanders supporters, he would have won. He lost by about 30, as you can tell from the earlier math. So with those supporters, he would have won, but they discounted him. Now, did they do the right thing in discounting them? Well, that's where it's nearly impossible to determine. So can I say with a great degree of confidence that I was at the Paris Hotel in Las Vegas. I looked at all those registration forms, and of those 64 overall that were disqualified, let's just put it at 58 because some were let back in, right? The 58 that were definitely disqualified, I know for a fact were Democrats and registered as Democrats earlier. No, no one's done that reporting yet, okay? But this is one of many states where, oh, golly gee, it turns out that there were more Bernie Sanders people disqualified than Hillary Clinton people. And in all of those states, the people wielding power are Hillary Clinton surrogates and not Bernie Sanders surrogates. Yet another coincidence, golly gee. 58 Sanders guys gone, only 8 Hillary Clinton people gone. Maybe they were just much better with their paperwork. It is possible, okay? Now, but I want to give you a sense of the unfairness of the proceedings, so I actually want to go back to Roberta Lang. I'm going to go to video 4 here. Now, this is at the end, right? Now it's getting around 10 o'clock at night. This has gone for quite some time. They use the excuse of the Paris casino would like to move on with their lives. They've got cops lined up, they got security lined up, and they're going to get out of there, right? But she needs another vote to convene. Let's see how that voice vote goes. That might have been my favorite gavel of all time. Eyes, nose, yeah, the eyes have it. What's the killing? Bam, and I'm out of here. Drop the gavel and leave. Man, she was not having a good day. Okay, and neither was democracy, because that's not how it's supposed to go.
I just wanted to show that part. I wanted to show Vegas. Because like you said, over and over and over again, oh, we just shut polling locations down for no reason. I mean, we just wanted to shut the polling locations down. Or, oh, we needed to do this. Or, oh, we needed to do that. And one way after the next, it cut against Sanders. You look at the end voter totals, meaning the exit totals, are always against Sanders. At a certain point, they even stopped having the exit polls. Like, fuck, this is making us look really corrupt, so let's just stop having these. Was always against Sanders. So my point is, even that part is wrong. Like, if he's bringing up this they subverted democracy and all this other stuff, you have nowhere else to look than your fellow party members that's doing this, that's putting this agenda out. You were cheated. Fucking cheated. Come on. Come on. Let me let him finish. It's only fair if I let him finish.
About Secretary Clinton.
Do you have an idea of how to prevent this going forward? I mean, this was a sophisticated, so they basically used the divide of the Democratic Party between you and Secretary Clinton at the time to polarize things even more.
Right. Look, first of all, the main point to be understood is that what everybody understands except Donald Trump is that this was not just the 2016 campaign. They intend to do this in 2018. And I think one of the weirdest things in modern American history is you have every intelligence agency, you have the Mueller report, you have Trump's own administration saying the Republicans want to sabotage the 2018 campaign. Everybody knows this except the President of the United States.
Yeah.
And I think people are asking, what is going on with this president? What we have got to do, and I think Senator Langford touched on some of the issues, front end. What we have got to say to the Russians, you are doing something to undermine American democracy. You are not going to get away with it. This is a major assault. If you do that, there will be severe, severe consequences.
Right.
We've got to protect states and communities to make sure that their voting is.
What does that mean? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. What does severe consequences mean? What does severe consequences mean? And just so we're very clear, just so everyone understands where we are, we're talking about Twitter and Facebook. We're talking about Twitter and Facebook. Yeah. That's profoundly sad. IQ Denim. The fact that we're counting on one motherfucker to stand up for us is pathetic. I guess my point is that's why I'm going with a no vote. Look, being able to say no, that I'm no longer going with what takes place, it has one of two effects. Democratic parties gets destroyed, or something else takes its place. But at the very least, it allows you to stand with a certain of integrity and say, I'm done. Now, if you find somebody who you believe is representing your interests, then yeah, it would be insane not to vote for that person at that point. But I've raised this flag before, man. The IQ Denim thing, I agree with you. I made this point before that lefties are putting a lot of hope into Sanders. They're putting a lot of hope into Sanders. And yes, there's a potential for things to go a particular way. But it is also just as much a potential, if not more, for them to go in another way. So IQ Denim, I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. MJ Wing, that is what I thought. He is pandering to Hillary's crowd. And you know, yeah, I guess that could also be true. I mean, you have this situation where you have a bunch of Hillary supporters who full well believe the Russia argument. And Bernie Sanders doesn't want to be susceptible to, well, you didn't say anything about Russia, man. Russia hacked the campaign and they were working with you and they were pushing your voters and blah, 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 blah. Maybe it was one of those. He wants to cover his ass for later on because he knows he's going to get hit with that particular angle. It's possible. I don't know. Big 1234. Glad you're bringing this up. His response pissed me off. He should have liked this about the primary. Yeah. Maybe that's what it is. Like I was trying to search my feelings before I started this on. What is the thing that really sticks in my craw when I watch that? Like, why is that a difficult video to watch? Because I've watched it a few times. What is the thing where I'm watching and be like, ugh, that hurts to watch. And I think for me it's disingenuous. I think that's what it is. I think it's disingenuous. Like, so it's certainly Bernie Sanders knows this. It's the feeling I get when I watch regular mainstream news, where I feel like they're overwhelmingly missing the context. Now, I can believe Chuck Todd is oblivious. Chuck Todd is paid to be oblivious. He is the most oblivious man on the planet. But Bernie Sanders, is Bernie Sanders oblivious? I don't think so. I don't think so. So if Sanders feels that he needs to attack Russia in order to attack Trump, if he feels that context should not be injected into that conversation, if he's going to throw these threats like severe consequences and all this other stuff, that looks bad, man. That looks bad. Jeremy Scott is right. It makes it harder for people who make that argument for Sanders when he does shit like this, because if it ultimately it's I'm throwing my base under the bus. I'm throwing Black Lives Matter under the bus. I'm throwing Muslims under the bus. And I'm saying that those people, the struggles that they encounter, the reasons that they take, were not motivated by their own things, the things that were in them. It was motivated by foreign government. Oh man, that hurts. And then add on to that the indignity of saying something like that to back it up with, well, they undermine democracy. You were in a contest where they cheated you, dude. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? So come on. Catherine, I feel the same in Garden. What did Garden say? I don't care why Sanders is doing it, as I've stated many times. Yeah. On this, Garden, I agree with you, man. I agree with you. Like, I don't particularly care. I don't particularly care what his reasons are. It's kind of besides the point. Is there a way to make this argument where you can attack Donald Trump that you don't entirely throw this thing of context out of the window? Yes. I mean, fuck, man. I mean, the reason why people love Sanders in many respects was that they thought he was being straight with them. They thought he was being somewhat honest in the things that he was saying when he was talking about politics. This undermines his brand, at least to lefties. Maybe not to the regular public. The regular public looks at this and thinks that this is reality. But to lefties, when he runs in the Democratic Party, it is a headwind for those people to vote for Bernie Sanders. Whether he realizes it or not, it is a headwind for the lefties to vote for Sanders if Sanders runs again. There are some who said they won't vote for him. I think that number who won't vote for him is minor, but there are some who said they won't vote for him. Your credibility with the main crowd, meaning the outside crowd, not the people who inhale the stuff, but your credibility with that main base, that inside base, that lefty's lefty, is hurt in his affiliation with Democrats. And if Sanders is running, he needs to mend that gap and mind that gap. He needs to mind that gap big time. Like, I think about this conversation, and is there a way you could have injected context into this conversation to kind of undermine some of the effects that you're trying to do? Yes, you don't have to throw your people under the bus in order to make the conversation. Those issues were here for a long period of time. Those issues didn't just arise with Trump and Russia. That being said, we do need to secure our electoral system, etc. Like, there's a way to make this argument that don't necessarily take this tact. We are aware that Bernie Sanders understands the stuff, which makes it that much worse. He's not an idiot. He understands the stuff. Greener thumbs. You're extrapolating a lot from that statement. You guys, and your two wrongs don't make a right mentality. Why can't he call out others for something just because it happened to him? No. I see what you mean. Yeah, but come on. I mean, it's this thing of standing. If you're saying the party that he's affiliating with, in this case, Democrats have screamed at the top of their lungs that Trump colluded with Russia to attack them and undermine Hillary Clinton. Now, we don't know that. That's the first part. And they've taken us back from all of that to Facebook and Twitter. Facebook and Twitter. Now, Bernie Sanders is on here saying that democracy was undermined by Vladimir Putin, while at the same token, he was in a contest that the people who were screaming about being cheated him. I'm saying that looks ridiculous. I'm saying that is grossly emasculating. I'm saying that completely undermines this thing of all of these people who gave him like $220, like $250 million. Yeah, you hit them in the knees when you make statements like this. It totally hits them in the knees. Green Party is less than 1% of the vote. It sucks, but the United States doesn't have a left. You can subvert democracy if you have it a midwit. I don't know how to pronounce that. PB, Democrats can't win without leftist base, which is leaving in droves. Well, they need to do more than leave. They need to be very clear about their leaving. And yeah, they need to aggregate into something, not just, you know, be in the fucking weeds. They need to aggregate. They need to become something. Bob Ramirez, and I'll leave it on this one because I love this. At least people are starting to wake the fuck up. Took you long enough, but welcome to reality. I like that, Bob. I like that, Bob. That's awesome. All right, guys. I'm going to end it on this. I have another one to do. I think I have like 2 more to do. It's not a 420, but it's going to get into UFO stuff. This is not a 420, though. Somebody put out a hit piece on Tom DeLonge, and I want to talk about the hit piece because the guy who put the hit piece out is, under normal circumstances, a fucking lunatic. So I will be back in a few minutes. Oh, by the way, at 10 o'clock, I have Kelly, and I can't think of her last name. She's going to be on the show talking about, I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, electoral fraud. But within the context of the unrig our summits or unrig our elections, in addition to CFAR. Kelly works on the board of CFAR. So that should be an interesting conversation that comes up at 10 o'clock. But I think I'm going to sneak my video in before Kelly comes in. So, all right, guys. thank you all for enjoying the show, or thank you all for staying. At the very least, I don't know if you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it, since if you're still here, you're here for a reason. And yeah, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. And this is Panda Stratton. This BS Bernie pushing is going to get us a second-term Trump and corporate-controlled Democratic Party. This BS Bernie Sanders is pushing is going to get us a 2-term Trump and a corporate-controlled Democratic Party. Can you imagine if Donald Trump runs and wins again? Not against Sanders, against somebody else. Any random corporate Democrat. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't like it. What happened to healthcare, by the way? What happened to college for everybody? What happened to those things? What happened to those things? If you've noticed, they've been completely subsumed by this issue. Meaning Democrats were able to essentially take down the message that Bernie Sanders was putting out, take down this populist element, essentially tackle it, and replace all of it with Trump and Russia and Russian trolls. Russian trolls. I will leave it at that. All right, guys. Thank you for all the super cash. Thank you for the Patreon donations themselves. And by the way, whether you support the show in that way or not, liking, sharing, all those things, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So thank you guys for staying and listening to me talk about this. This issue annoys the shit out of me like nobody's business. I watched that clip and I thought to myself, how are you hitting your people in the knees like this? It's bad enough that you're affiliating yourself with Democrats, but how on earth are you hitting your people in the knees in this particular way? So I will leave it at that. I didn't particularly like it. I'm going to check out the Jill Stein thing to see what that one is about. But you guys have a good one. I'll see you back in a few. Well, those who are going to be around. I'll see you back in a few. Thanks, guys. Where's my mouse?